Hi, good afternoon for beginners through advanced class. My name is Brent Oglesby, if you haven't found that out yet. I'm the professor for this class and I'm going to be working with you a lot remotely this semester. One of the things I wanted to begin with was to ensure that everybody has tools. For the beginning class, this is probably most important. Most of the intermediate and advanced students have already purchased some or know where to get some. For beginners though, the usual packet that is available in the bookstore, or used to be, was called a Kemper clay tools packet. Now our bookstore no longer carries art materials. We are now having to purchase elsewhere. And so my two suggestions are Mudworks in Louisville, Kentucky, or Lexington. They have two different stores. Or Mid-South Ceramics down in Nashville. All three of those locations, I'm sure, carry Kemper tool packets. The basic packet runs about, I think, $8 to $10, and it is a series of tools that I'm going to go through so you can get a sense of what they are. First thing we have is what's known as a fettling knife. Let me back up here a little bit. This looks like a little bit like a butter knife, except that it's a bit sharper looking. It's good for cutting clay, obviously, and it's not terribly sharp, but it's good enough for getting through clay. Kind of a flexible blade, a little too flexy for my interest, but it'll do the job. Not a bad idea to get your name on these because they float around the studio. Second tool that's in the packet is what's known as a trim tool. It is typically made of wood, has one sharpened end and another end that is sort of blunted and soft. That's useful for working in hand building technique, rubbing in corners. The sharper end is great for trimming the foot of a pot, coming in at an angle like I'm trimming on my beard here. Cutting away excess to make the pot lighter. So, trim tool and fettling knife. Ribs. Ribs come in different sizes, different shapes. This is a metal rib, and as you can see, quite flexible. It can be used in curved surfaces, turned the other way. As you're throwing on the wheel, it can be used to make straight lines or gestures that have more curvature to them. I'm not a real big fan of metal ribs. They're so thin, you can see, that if you reach around not watching where you're grabbing, you can get a good paper cut from one of these suckers. So while this comes with the packet, I'm not a big fan of them. What I would suggest instead, if you're online purchasing anyway, is dropping another $1 or $2 for, say, flexible rubber rib. This one is made by, give me a second. Mud Tools is the name of this. Sherrell, S-H-E-E-R-E-L, Sherrell Mud Tools. I like these a lot because they are also flexible but don't hurt you. The other ones you can pick up are wood tools, wood trim tools. These are very handy for scraping, for trimming, and they make a great replacement for that darn steel bladed form. All kits come up with some sort of cutoff wire, which looks like two sticks with a guitar string in between. This is used to cut off pots off the potter's wheel, and works pretty well at first. The particular brand or type that Kemper tools come with, typically the wire is kind of stiff and it kinks. And when it kinks, you typically get a knot that you can't untie, which makes it a little bit clumsy. I like another brand better. Again, Mud Tools. Looks very much the same, except that it has rubber tips instead of wood at the end. And what's best about it is that the wire in between the two handles is much more flexible. It won't kink. When you stretch it, it pulls out straight. It doesn't fray. I find these much easier to use. I like them a lot. But you'll get one. If you don't have any money for that, you can go over to your dad's car and take a few washers off the car. I'm sure you won't miss a couple washers, won't be a problem. Just tighten the nut back down. Tie a string to it, and you have a homemade cutoff wire. I use this when I want a little bit of texture on the bottom. You can see that the weave on that string could cause a texture. If you're really broke, go and get Dad's shoe. Take one of the laces out of the shoe and go grab a couple sticks out of the backyard and tie them off. This works just fine as a cutoff wire. Just an alternative, and Dad doesn't have to know. Let's see. Something else that's really useful in the class, especially when we get to hand building, is a fork. Mom's got more of these than she needs. Go ahead and take one. Just make sure it's not the best one. These are great for scraping in clay to make joints. Really useful. If you got the extra money and you want to buy something that's a bit less fat tines, you can buy this little tool. I don't know what it's called, but it works great for scraping and scoring clay. And when I say scoring clay, I'm talking about scratching clay so that you can join pieces together. This has been scored with that tool. Another handy tool that would be useful to have around, I like using them for hand building. When I'm joining things together, I use a rough toothbrush to dig up slurry and slop to put in between bits of clay when I compress them together. So I use this to get slurry and slip to join forms together. And again, my suggestion is probably your brother or your sister. They don't brush their teeth very often anyway, more than they should, you know, but they won't miss it. It'll be a week or two and you'll be on campus by then. So go ahead and take one of these from them. Bring it. It's really a useful tool. Finally, we do have a lot of big sponges around camp in the ceramics lab. But when you're cleaning the wheel at the end of the class, having a big mop-up sponge, let me tilt this a little more, makes the job go really quick. We do have some, but because we're in a COVID situation, the more of these things that we have of our own, the less likely we'll be transferring germs with each other. So it's important that we try to keep our stuff separate from others or clean in any case. Anyway, those are the basic tools that are going to get you through the class. If you find that you just don't have enough money to cover all those, take care of what you can. Don't worry about it too much. We do have extra pots, extra pottery tools that float around the studio from other students from previous semesters. So, looking forward to seeing you in the class and looking forward to exploring clay with you. Bye-bye.